What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Real Muscle Podcast. Today, I got a longtime friend of mine, Jasen Kohli. How you doing, Jasen?
What's up, bro? How are you doing?
Pretty good, man. I know when I met you originally, you was living in San Diego, but I know you've been down in Vegas for a while, right?
Yeah, I just moved out here in November last year.
Uh-huh.
So it's been almost a year now.
Time flies, brother. And you've been training at the Dragon's Lair?
Yeah, Dragon's Lair is. Hold on.
There you go.
Let me get to a better place. Too much noise.
There's commotion.
My office. That should work. All right.
So far.
Yeah, I've been training at Dragon's Lair. The last, I think they've been open since like March or so.
Okay. How would you compare that to like the? Because I know you should go to the gym San Diego. That's like probably one of the best gyms in Cali, if not the best, probably. How does Dragon's Lair compare to that? Would you say?
I like the gym in terms of like equipment, and it's a bigger gym. If that makes sense. Yeah. But the Dragon's Lair, the atmosphere is a lot better than the gym is currently. The gym used to be really, really good. So like it used to have like mostly bodybuilders, and like it used to be a very like hardcore atmosphere.
Yeah.
But ever since COVID, like all the 24-hour fitness people went there and just it made it a mess. I mean, that gym's turned into influencer heaven. So, and even the owners know it. So it's just been bad.
The same thing kind of happened to Goals, honestly. If you go to Goals right now, there's not really much going on. I mean, you have maybe three pro bodybuilders of that, and everybody else is kind of like LA Fitness, basically.
Yeah, that's what I heard Venice turned into after a while. Because I mean, it used to be that hardcore atmosphere. You'd walk in there, and you'd see all the pros, Dexter, and all those dudes, and now it's just like you go in there, and it's just a bunch of little physique guys and people that don't even compete filming.
Pretty much. And the crazy part, I mean, there's always been a lot of homeless there, but now it's literally like Skid Row. It's like literally Skid Row. It's wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but I don't think we've really talked since COVID. I mean, I've seen you at USA's, but everybody was kind of in the zone. Has COVID affected you in any way, business-wise? Have you got sick? Has anybody you know got sick?
It did at first, like when the gyms and everything actually shut down, just because like, and that was more my own doing because I didn't charge anybody like during COVID. But as COVID, like as the gyms opened back up, my clientele all came back and nothing really was too affected that badly. I think it was more just the inconvenience of having to like work around a lot of things. Mm-hmm. But I mean, other than that, it wasn't too bad. I think more so my international clients were affected a lot more. I mean, I have a client in Ireland who their COVID mandate just got lifted. So their gyms just opened in May of this year. And they've been closed since March last year. So a lot of the international clients had it much worse than the guys in the States.
Yeah. I have a client in Canada that he was prepping for a couple of shows, all got canceled. He ended up coming all the way over here just to compete in I think in Vegas actually he competed. That was against my advice. I didn't think it was worth it to come all the way here for a local show personally. But he did it anyway. That's a little much. He did it anyway. He won, which is good for him, but it was really tough. And I have another client in India. Forget about it. India has been
India is pretty locked down too. I've seen some crazy videos.
Like they're like hitting people like with sticks.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, over there it's definitely different. Same thing with Australia too. Australia, like they're giving out fines for not having a mask, for just walking around on the sidewalk. It's just very different in other countries,
It's a little wild, yeah. But yeah, that client in particular, he kept prepping, and I'm like, bro, I don't know what you're prepping for. The next show in India, man. I don't think there's gonna be a show for the rest of the year. I'll be honest with you. I think just eat, work out if you can, and that's it. Because there's not, it's not going to happen at this point.
Yeah.
But anyway, the reason I got Jasen on today, the main reason I got Jasen on, I actually been trying to get you on for a while, but Jasen is a very successful coach in his own right, and there's been a lot of talks about coaching recently. I've seen podcasts where clients are kind of like just going off on coaches. I mean, they can be positive in that. If there's bad coaches out there, I guess it's good to talk about it. But I feel like nobody's taking any responsibility. Everybody just kind of like, this coach said this and that and this. And I'm like, I mean, you kind of go to these coaches because you want to get better, right? So if you go to Milos, for example, you're probably going to Milos for some kind of insulin protocol. You already know what he does. So if he puts you on insulin and now you're like, oh, this is too much insulin, it's kind of like, I mean, get another coach, but you can't really shit on coaches to the extent people do. But the main thing is, I know recently that there's been a couple of deaths. I think both girls work with the same coach?
Yeah, I mean, there was a couple different people talking, but now it's like, God, it's like everybody out of the woodwork now is saying that every coach did them wrong. But yeah, it started. Fierce Fit Steph was the first one that went on Leo and Longevity, Blue and Boston and Leo's podcast, and just basically ripped Shelby apart. We're still Shelby Starnes.
Mm-hmm. I like
that. Another girl, Jody. She's really, really sweet woman. I know her.
Mm-hmm.
And Jody was talking a little bit about him.
Yeah. So I'm actually good friends with those guys. I'm pretty sure you are too, Boston.
Yeah.
But some of these guests, they really just take no responsibility whatsoever. No.
The thing is, bro, like a lot of people. So my issue was this is like, I don't know if everyone knows who Shelby is. Shelby's one of the biggest female like if there's a big shredded girl out there, Shelby probably coaches her.
Yeah.
He's got close to 500 clients. He's got some of the biggest titles in the world, like in terms of like his clientele. He gets people, I've seen people turn from like skinny fat, like little girls into just amazing athletes.
Mm-hmm.
And, I even before this all happened, I used to have people ask me all the time, what do you think Shelby does? What do you think Shelby does? I'm like, he does what every other really good female coach does. He pushes the limit. He gives them a lot of drugs and he diets the hell out of them. Mm-hmm. But it's just like any other dude, if you ask me what Nick Walker does, I'm going to assume he takes a good amount of drugs, he eats a lot of food, and he trains really hard. Like there's no real like secret to this. Like if you've been in this game long enough, like the basics of it, like 3 things: drugs, food, training. It's that simple. And I think people are he has a laundry list of things that need to be fixed. And I think the biggest one that needs to be fixed is he's going way too crazy with the diuretics. Mm-hmm. And when girls or guys are dying the night before their show or the day after their show, that's a direct issue with what they're doing in a protocol around that time of the show. If they're dying, in a prep, in an off season, there's a lot of different things we can blame. But if it's right before the show, it's very obvious that something's gone wrong with the diuretic protocol or the water intake, or, there's something wrong there.
Yeah.
And he's got, they named 4 girls that are very clearly died from some sort of diuretic abuse or misuse right around their showtime. And it's not good, you know what I mean? And that's something that I'm sure that he's going to have to live with, and he's going to have to figure out like where he wants to go with this. But I think that the issue at hand that we're talking about, Beatty, is that these girls are like, they're blasting for the diuretic abuse, which is great. That's awesome. And now all these people are coming out of the woodwork saying like, oh, this coach also put me on a ton of T3, a ton of Clan and Savannah Bar and Suprema Bowling. And, this coach had me do 2 hours of cardio and eat like 700 calories. And I'm like, that's the name of the game, bud. Like, that's what gets you better. You ain't going to get shredded as a female. Like, you're a female. You're meant to be fat. Biologically, your body wants to be fat. Your body wants to carry a child and have enough body fat to have that child and to keep that child healthy. It's not meant to be shredded at, 10% body fat on stage as a female. It's crazy. Yeah. And you're going to vilify the coach that you just spent $2,000 for on a prep. And you went to a top level coach and you're a good athlete and you're going to expect him not to push you to get you in the best shape possible. And if there's something that you're uncomfortable with in the protocol, you need to tell him right then and there, not wait till after and be like, oh, well, he told me to do this and blah, blah, blah. And at the end of the day, like, I don't feel bad for anybody doing a bunch of cardio and diet. That's what we do, bro. Like Jay Cutler says all the time, he used to do 3 hours of Stairmaster when he got ready for the Olympia. Like, I don't feel bad for a little girl doing a bikini show, doing 3 hours of cardio. Deal with it.
Oh, man,
this is what it is,
honestly, if you can't do it, it might not be for you. I think there was like a wave, maybe. I want to say, I don't want to blame one person, but I remember when George Farrell got on the scene, his selling point was kind of like, hey, listen, you can eat a lot of carbs. You don't have to do a lot of cardio. And I mean, it worked for some people, but let's be honest, man, most people, they just can't do it.
It doesn't work for very many people. I mean, that's the thing is like, they'll show one person who's able to do this, and then they preach that. And I'm like, well, what about all your other fat clients? Like, you're not preaching that your other genetically average clients can do these things. Like, I don't care what your freaking nature can do. I don't care what Miss Olympia can do. Like, there's a reason she's Miss Olympia. She works hard, but like, there's things that she can do that other people can't. Like, that is what it is. Like, we're all born different, Some people are going to be huge and some people aren't. Some people are going to be shredded and some people aren't,
Simple as that. I feel like, okay, if you're a coach, for instance, right? And then I know some people try to play this card with Chad, right? Like, they're like, hey, well, this client got kidney failure 10 years later after he worked with you. And it's like, bro, I mean, he didn't put them on drugs, first of all. They were doing it long before they met him. And
yeah,
there's so much variables in that. So I don't like when people do things like that, or like, oh, this guy had a heart attack and he worked with you for one prep, and that's weird. But I mean, if you're literally, people are dying backstage the day before the show, from dehydration, and it's like piling up, then there's going to have to be some accountability on the coach. But the coach can't just say, well,
exactly. That's what we're talking about. That's the thing that Shelby has kind of gone off the deep end with. And I know he knows that too. I know he knows where he goes. He's like, shoot, I shouldn't have done this.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he feels bad about it. But those are the things like, and even beyond it being dangerous, like, that's not going to make you any better. Like, that's kind of the issue of it, is like, we're doing these crazy diuretic protocols with 3 different, aldactone, diazide, Bumex, all at the same time. And it's not only dangerous to the person, but it's not making them any better. So what's the point? Exactly. It's one thing to be like, hey, they're vilifying. They go, well, he gives people up to like 180 micrograms of T3. I'm like, that is a lot of T3, and that might be dangerous to do for a long term, but that will make you better. If you have a shit metabolism, the more, the better. It's going to make your thyroid work faster. You're going to get leaner, and there's a reason he does it. Amen. If you don't want to do it, then just be like, hey, Shelby, I'm not comfortable with pushing those doses.
Boom. And then every level isn't for everybody. Some people are going to, cap out at the local level. Some people national level, some people pro level. And every level, you might have to push your body to something you might not be comfortable with. You got a guy like Everson Topani. He probably could have went super far, but he wasn't comfortable with a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. And he was okay with that. So you might have to pick and choose what you're comfortable with. But I want to say I don't work with any bodybuilder females, but as I have a good amount of bikini clients, and it's fucking hard to get these girls in shape, like in real shape. Like on a local level, yeah, but when you get to the national level, it's hard to get these girls in shape. Like their body, like you'll swear they're cheating. I'm like asking their boyfriend, I'm like, yo, did she cheat? He's like, nah, bro, she hasn't cheated. I'm like, yeah. What the fuck did she gain 3 pounds? But their bodies don't, it starts fighting you back. And then you're giving them more carbs, you're taking away carbs, and you're using every trick in the book to get them in shape. Obviously I want them to keep their feminine, shape as well, like their voice and stuff. So I don't want to go too hard with certain hardeners, but
man, the problem is a lot of these girls don't care. They tell you from the get-go, they're like, I will do whatever it takes to win.
100%.
And then they come back around after, and then they're mad at you for doing it. I've had this happen, man,
Bunch of times.
so many times, and it's like, and I mean, I'll be the first to admit, I've had a couple girls ask me in the middle of the prep. They're like, can I use Tren? Can I use Halo? And I'm like, ideally, no. But I mean, if that's what you're going to do, then like, I'll help you. Like, I'm not going to just like let you do things on your own. Like, I'll guide you the best that I can. But like people, I saw, I don't know if it was Stephanie or another girl, but she posted a protocol with like, it was like 10 milligrams of Tren every other day, Trenbolone and acetate, and then 10 milligrams of Halotestin every day. I looked at it, I'm like, that's extreme. Like, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't usually recommend it unless like we're really going for like an Olympia title or like a big pro show. But like, is that going to kill you? Is it like outrageous? Not really. I mean, like, I feel like people really like overplay what is dangerous and what is not intelligent. You know what I mean? Crazy diuretic protocols are just flat out dangerous. A woman taking 10 milligrams of Trenbolone every other day and 10 milligrams of Halotestin every day as a top professional athlete, I wouldn't say that's dangerous. You know what I mean? I would say that's, maybe it's not the best for her health long term or in terms of trying to keep her feminine. Is it going to kill her? Fuck no. Not even close. Yeah. Like, we're not talking any type of life-threatening danger. The only danger we're talking about is, maybe she's going to have a deeper voice at the end of this, but 10 milligrams of Trenton, that's where we're starting to see the bullshit. And I want to talk about the things that are dangerous, that are killing people, that are causing serious long-term life-threatening effects. Not something that's like, oh, well, now you look like a dude. I'm like, well, you asked for it. You're in bodybuilding, taking male hormones. Any one of those drugs could have made you look like a dude,
What makes it challenging also is these girls, right? They'll want to work with you, right? And let's say they've been training for a year, and they have a pretty good physique. Like, you see the shape and everything, but they're like, they say, "Yo, listen, I want to compete this year," and you're like, I mean, it's gonna take longer than that, but they're dead set on it, and they won't waver. And you're like, okay, I mean, if you're willing to do what you got to do,
that happens a lot.
Give me everything. And I'm like, I know you're saying that right now because you're really like, you're so gung ho about the show, but like, do you really mean it? Like, give me everything, man. And okay, and then you give them what you feel like. It's like you would have hoped that you can get away with the least, right? If you have more time. But if they're giving you this deadline and they want it right now, then you have to push a little bit harder, unfortunately. So it's like, but same way they can tell you this and then turn around next year and they're like, hey, they'll start talking shit to other people like, oh, this guy put me on this and that. And you're like, I mean, you told me to.
You're like, well, wait, we started 8 weeks out and this is what you asked for.
I literally had a girl, she got started working with me, right? I never brought up drugs to her because she's like into working out, but she never brought up competing. Me talking to her, I never felt like she was willing to go there. So I just never brought it up. She lost a bunch of weight. She looked great. And then she brings up this other girl I was training. I'm like, hey, I heard this girl is on this and that and this. And I'm like, yeah. She's like, I want to get what she's on. And I'm like, I mean, sure, but like, you don't have any plan to compete. She's like, well, I might and stuff. So I'm like, cool. So I put her on, 10 milligrams of Anavar. Or not even at that point. I put her on just a little bit of T3, a little bit of Clen. Boom. And then down the line, this is maybe months later, I'm hearing from third person. Like, there's one girl client of mine. She's like, "Oh, this girl told me that you put her on all these drugs and you stopped checking in on her and all that." I'm like, "What?" Well, first of all, she checks in with me. It's the other way around. Like, I'm not the one sending check-ins. Like,
yeah, I'm not here to babysit. I'm not sending check-ins to my clients. They have to send check-ins to me.
Boom. So she just stopped sending check-ins, and then she's like frustrated because I'm not walking her through it. I'm like, why did she stop sending check-ins? And she was literally on 20 MCGs of each, so it's not like it was a crazy protocol. And then I'm like, wow. So I actually confronted her about it. She's like, oh, I didn't mean it that way. I just felt like this. I'm like, you're the one that asked me to get on it. I never even put you on it. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of weird. You got to be careful sometimes. People, when they're in the trenches prepping, their brain, sometimes you get that prep brain and they just
mentally they're not stable, man. I mean, I'm the first to say, like, I'm not in the best mental state when I'm prepping for a show.
Yeah,
And, like, even beyond this, like, there's other coaches, like, trying to jump on the bandwagon, acting like they've never given their clients diuretic protocols or they've never given their clients this drug or that drug. I'm like, listen, bro, we've all experimented with everything on ourselves. We've given clients things where we're like, oh, we probably shouldn't have done that. You know, it is what it is. We all learn. Like, and to act like you're a perfect coach, it's so hypocritical, and it's so sad to see like how many people are coming. Like, I saw a coach, big name coach, like very, very big bikini coach, has a million fucking bikini athletes. One of my friends called him out on this too, where he said that T3 is like one of the most dangerous drugs you can give a woman. I'm like, give me a fucking break, man. Like, we don't give the human body credit enough for how resilient it is and how much of a beating it can take. Like, oh shoot, I remember a story. What was the story with Milos said on an interview one time, where it was not Titus, I think it was Art Atwood accidentally took an entire bottle of T3 or whatever it was back then, which was like, I think it was like a couple grams of T3 at a time, and like started having heart palpitations or something. He didn't die from that. You know what I mean? Like, and like you hear the stories of like, oh, I accidentally injected 100 IU of insulin at once by accident instead of injecting 10. Like, our bodies are a lot more resilient than we give them credit for. And, you know, doing 25 micrograms of T3, doing 37 micrograms of T3 or 50 to 60 micrograms of Clen, like, that's not going to kill you, man. Like, and if it does, you shouldn't be doing this because your body sucks. Exactly. Like, you know what I mean? Like, shoot, I saw somebody post a protocol where they're taking like, it was like a smaller dose of, I think it was like 40 or 60 micrograms of Clen, a SARM, and then some T3. I think it was like 25 micrograms of T3. And they said that their coach put them in the hospital doing that. And I'm looking at this protocol and I'm like, you're either just shit talking your coach for no reason. You went to the hospital because you had a panic attack, because you have anxiety, not because of the drugs, but you have a mental issue, which is fine, you know, understandably, but you shouldn't be taking those drugs to begin with. Or your body just sucks. Like, if your body can't handle that, go do natural shows. Get out of the NPC. Like, there's no place for that. You know what I mean? Like, and I think with the addition of a lot of the new divisions, you know, men's physique and, you know, and even bikini and figure are relatively new. They haven't been around for that long. It's brought a lot of weak-minded people into this sport. Whereas, you know, back in the 80s and 90s, like, people would do whatever it took to win. I mean, I remember talking to a good friend of mine who's a middleweight champion in the USA. So he won multiple times, but back then they gave the overall the pro card only to the overall winner, and he wouldn't drink for days. And I mean, pounding Lasix, not drinking for days. The dude went to the hospital for being overly dehydrated. They tried to give him an IV. He ripped it out and then went back to go compete and left the hospital. So, I mean, like, obviously, like, that's not intelligent to do, but it just shows like how competitive and how much these guys didn't give a shit. And I think with these other divisions, it's just brought a very like a mentally weak, and that's not a bad thing. Like they're not willing to kill themselves over it. And again, that's not a bad thing. That's them. Yeah. But there are, in a sport that is this extreme, you shouldn't be doing it in the first place. Like, if you're not willing to go up there and try and be at your best, like, just live to look good at the beach, you know. Don't put yourself through this fucking hell and through all this, you know, this mental trauma, you know, and all these drugs. Like, it's not worth it if that's what you're worried about, you know. So I don't know, but it's definitely brought a different group of people into this industry.
The funny part, when I was in my early 20s, I wanted coaches to put me on everything. I wanted to get all the.
I
was like, yeah,
that was what I went to those coaches for.
Yeah, I wanted carbs and cardio. I wanted everything.
Yeah, I wanted to eat 800 grams of carbs. I wanted to take 2, 3, 4 grams of gear. Like, you know, that's what I went to them for. I said, like, hey, I want to be the best, you know.
But that I fucking love that. I definitely wasn't gonna complain about, oh, this coach put me on 2 grams of test. I would have been like, oh, let's do it. Fuck it.
Like, let's do it. Or like, oh, he gave me 2 hours of cardio. Give a shit. I'll do whatever it takes, you know?
I'll be honest, like a lot of times, I'm not gonna do this anymore, but I used to do more. They would give whatever they get. I would do more cardio. I was I'm not saying it's smart, obviously, but I learned the hard way that just follow the program. But
there is something to be said for the mindset that drives you to do that. Yeah. You know, it may not be smart in the sense of practicality, but if you're willing to push yourself harder than you have to, even if it does hurt you, you will be better for it in the long run.
I agree with
because anytime someone tells you to do something, you're like, oh, that's easy. Oh, I can do that. That's no problem. I'll get it done.
Exactly.
You know, versus the people who you give them 1 hour of cardio, they're like, oh, and then either they do 30 minutes of cardio instead of an hour, or they do an hour of bullshit cardio, and they barely push themselves, you know?
So did you see this post? I think it was by Jake Wood. He wanted to drop the condition. I don't know if he was talking about women's, or I think I'm pretty sure it was in general. He wanted to lower the standard of conditioning.
I did.
I don't think
I did,
but he's trying to make that happen. And the funny part is, like we said, this is not a conditioning issue; it's a diuretic issue. You can be fat. You can be fat and still die from diuretics. I mean, you don't have to. So I don't think the Mannings are gonna really push that. Like really, you won't go to Olympia and they're gonna be, oh, Ramy's too shredded this year. That's never gonna happen.
Correct. I think a lot of people actually took that post incorrectly, and I think he worded it wrong. Mm-hmm. I think he's just talking about, like, he doesn't want people pushing the limits in the divisions that don't need the limits pushed in that type of condition. You know what I mean?
If it's like bikini, physique,
correct. It's not necessary, you know. No. I think especially for the most women divisions, mm-hmm. you know, obviously, like, the figure girls are pretty shredded. I mean, for the most part, they're still a little softer, but then, like, the physique girls are more shredded. The bodybuilders are obviously as good as they can be women's wise. But I mean, bikini, wellness, I think they're trying not to push that onto them, and they're trying to look for, you know, a better overall package rather than just condition. And I think he's even speaking about that in terms of bodybuilding. And this is really how he should have worded it. He should have said, condition doesn't win shows solely. It is the best package on stage, the biggest, the fullest, the prettiest looking, with the best condition. And I think what he's trying to say is that if you just push condition and you look like a pile of shit, that's just a conditioned pile of shit, you're not going to win. You know what I mean? And I think that's what he meant, because he's been around the sport for a long time. Like, he knows, you know, what an ideal physique should look like. And I think he just worded that badly. And obviously, me reading it too, I'm like, why would you tone down the condition of any division? But I think it was more of just him saying, like, it's not just condition, it's everything else. But you also brought up a good point too, that I feel like more fat people abuse diuretics than shredded people do, because they're trying to make magic happen when they're just fat.
Yeah. And then usually you just look worse.
Exactly. Versus, like, I feel like the people who are truly in shape look at themselves and go, like, I don't really need anything, or they take a little bit of diuretics. Versus the fat people are the ones like, oh, I got to take a bunch of diuretics, holding a bunch of water, when really you're just 6 weeks out.
So my first coach, I won't mention his name because I actually like the guy. He's a nice guy, but he would keep you. I think some of the coaches in Kuwait do this as well. He would feed you a ton of food. Like, literally, I would prep on like 600 carbs, right?
Yep.
But with a bunch of cardio, so I'm getting leaner to a point, but I'm big and full of shit, right? So I have my abs in, you know, my arms are lean. My chest got some striations, but my glutes are saggy. My arms are shredded because I mean, it's like you're not fully there, but you're lean enough to.
Right.
And then what he'll do is literally for like 2 weeks, he'll load you on diuretics, and he'll load you on like letrozole and Arimidex. So getting rid of the estrogen, getting rid of some water, hopefully to get you like tighter from the backside. Right? And it was kind of hit or miss. Like I can't lie, I had some good looks, like freaky looks, but the glutes and hams were never in. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? Whereas if you're somebody who naturally just has lean glutes and hams, that could probably work for you, and you could actually look pretty sick. And he's had guys with that same thing. You know what I'm saying? It just didn't work for me. I need to be lean. If I'm not lean, I look like shit. And diuretics, one of my benefits is my round muscle bellies. If I flatten out, I literally don't even look like the same person. I look like so, that could be very dangerous. He's loading on diuretic for 2 weeks, but he's had success with it, similar to Shelby. If they have success with it, they're like, well, it works. You know? So if somebody dies, if one person died, they don't necessarily just change their protocol. They're like, wow, that sucks, but it's working, you know. But when it starts to line up, the body starts to line up, then you have to change it. So
it's different. And I think too, what a lot of people should know about her name's I believe it's Alina.
Yeah.
That died. I mean, I don't know the full story beyond just this fact, but I believe she probably had an electrolyte imbalance. You know, she's obviously overly dehydrated. She passed out. I know she passed out. That was one of the facts. But the other fact was it took 45 minutes for the ambulance to get there. So that's more likely the reason that she passed. I mean, obviously, if they hadn't done the diuretic, she wouldn't be in that situation in the first place. But the ambulance not getting there quick enough was the nail in the coffin that did that as well. But I think you're right too. When the bodies are piling up, you know, it's showing that that's not a protocol that's safe. That's not a protocol that's really working. And I think the thing is like Shelby is a pioneer of women's condition. I mean, I don't think women really came in that crazy of shape up until guys like Shelby started pushing the limits. I mean, if you look back, like I'm trying to think of old women's bodybuilding back in the day.
They weren't that strong.
I know the girls better than I do, but I'm thinking of bodies. They weren't nearly as shredded as even some of the figure girls nowadays. And I think he found a formula that worked in terms of like getting them in shape. And I think he created his own way of doing things for so long of what he thought worked that, you know, he was really testing the waters. He was pushing the limit, testing the waters, and he was the only one really doing it. Him and Shane Hughley are both, you know, phenomenal at getting girls in shape that have never been in shape. You know, girls that have gone from coach to coach to coach that never got in shape. And they did that by pushing limits, you know, 2-3 hours of cardio, you know, sub 1,000 calories and 100 micrograms of T3. You know, I've seen protocols with Shelby where he just increases the T3 by 12.5 micrograms and the clen by 20 micrograms per week until you start getting lean. Yeah. You know, and that's just, it worked. You know what I mean? Like, is it the safest way to do it? No, but it works. Right. So he kind of created that system. And I don't think he realized where he started to push the limit where some people were going to start dying, you know? And because he was the pioneer of that, he also has to be the one to deal with the fallout of, you know, pushing the limit is here's the line, and he crossed it where no one else, you know, had gone to that point, you know.
When you hit that level of development and especially conditioning, honestly, we're all at risk. I mean, like I don't think about I don't wake up and say, wow, this is dangerous. But I'm also aware that shit can happen. And if you talk to some of these like OGs, living in LA, right? I've talked to like Chris and Flex and things like that. They've all had near-death experiences at their prime. Every single one of them.
Oh yeah.
Like they've all had times where they thought they were gonna die. They're in the hospital. They're like, "Oh wow, you're not looking good. Well, your potassium is high and all this shit." Especially when they go overseas and they're taking stuff that they don't even know what it is.
They don't even know if those are the right drugs.
Exactly. So if you talk to them, they've all been there. When you have all the bodybuilders holding their hands, like, "Bro, you're gonna make it," and they're crying and all this. Like, it sucks to admit it, but it's a thing, you know what I'm saying? Because they were pushing their bodies crazy. I think us now, I think we can do it safer. and still bring.
I think so.
Yeah, bring it. But back then, like them being the pioneers, like Chad and all these guys, they were winging it. Let's be real. They were figuring it out. They were winging it. So that kind of stuff happened. And Shelby is the equivalent to that, to women. So
I think so.
yeah. So it's like, it's a lot of bro science. So it's a lot of trial and error. So there are some casualties, which sucks. But I think everybody's aware that when you're pushing their body to that point, things can happen. Now, I think me and you guys coming, I think we can do it a lot safer and not have to go through this kind of stuff. But I mean, it's still a possibility. Like, I mean, it's not, nothing is promised. And
From the day that I started this sport when I was a kid, I understood that my life could be shortened, and I accepted that. And if you are competing in the NPC, taking any form of PED, you need to accept that. That's just, at the end of the day, you have to tell yourself, like, this could shorten my life. This is not healthy. I'm doing this to be competitive. I'm not doing this to be healthy in any way, shape, or form. If you can't look yourself in the mirror and tell that and say that and not be lying to yourself, be honest and truthful to yourself and really accept that, you shouldn't be competing. It's just, it is what it is. There's nothing healthy. There's nothing safe about this.
No.
Like, it's like Formula One race car drivers. Like, they got to look themselves in the mirror and say, I am choosing a sport that could kill me. You know, it may not be this race, it may not be the next race, but you know, this has to be something that you accept, you know, and anything that's anything extreme, you know, and just competing in general, even at the local level, happens to be extreme from the local level all the way to the Olympia stage. Exactly. So it's just, I think until people start to accept that and, you know, not be delusional about this, and, you know, not a lot will change, you know. People can't say like, oh, there's a safe way to compete. That's bullshit. Yeah. Fucking bullshit. Unless you want to step on stage fat. You know, that's awesome. You want to step on stage fat and place last, and yeah, you can do it nice and safe. Yeah. Well, then what's the point? Why wouldn't you just go to the beach and look better than everyone?
Simple as that. So let's switch gears, some more positive. Who would you say are your top 5 best coaches in the game? Not popularity, just, you know, like solid coaches that you've worked with personally or you've known.
I gotta go. I mean, with my current coach, Blue Taylor is the most attentive, the most knowledgeable. Like, the guy is just, when you have someone that knows that much and cares that much at the same time, you have a winning formula, you know?
You can't beat that, because you can have all the knowledge in the world. If you don't give a fuck about me and you never get back to me, it doesn't matter, because at that point, you're not even coaching me.
Yep, exactly.
So yeah, I think first and foremost, your coach has to care about you. If not, you can't. This is a mistake. It doesn't happen anymore as much, but I remember maybe like 5-6 years ago, guys would be doing their first show and they would reach out and try to hire George Farah. And it's like, what the fuck? You think George Farah gives a fuck about the fucking Stony Hill Classic? Like,
no.
You know, one guy told me he went to the show and George was there and George didn't recognize him. I'm like, yeah, what the fuck do you expect? Like, you know, he doesn't know you. Like,
doesn't care.
You're like, hey, yeah. George is like, he didn't even know who the fuck he was. I mean, listen.
And George is $5,000 for a year.
Yeah, there's levels. You know, it's different if you're a pro and then you meet this guy and you and him talk and then you got a relationship. That's one thing, but don't just, you know, out the gate try to do that. Get somebody who's good, who you know is gonna get back to you. You can DM him, you can go back and forth and pick his brain. Somebody who cares. Now, I mean,
exactly.
And that's the best way to go. So, have you been keeping up with the bodybuilding season?
Yeah, I've been watching every show.
So,
it's actually been pretty exciting.
It has. How do you feel about the Texas Pro? What do you think about the place?
I think it was well deserved. I mean, between Kuklo and Ian I think it was close in some body parts, but I think it's just cool to see. I feel like bodybuilding is progressing again. I feel like bodybuilders are getting better. I mean, I think this was Steve Kuklo's best ever. And he's in his 40s, or late 30s, 40s probably by now. He's been around the circuit forever. And Ian's only 28, and Ian's beaten Kukla. So it's cool to see someone coming up through the ranks that's a younger kid and beating a seasoned vet at his best. And it's irrefutable proof that bodybuilding is going in a better direction, that people are getting better. Because I feel like for a while, I looked at the Olympia stage and I was like, man, like I don't see anybody that really stands out to me. That's like, wow, holy shit, And now I see Ian and I'm like, wow, like that's a crazy physique,
I mean, the Olympia top 8 was like the same lineup for years, man. For a while, it was getting kind of boring. So now,
there wasn't anyone really breaking through, and like I felt like the people in the top 8 weren't really like, so many would just come off. They're like, this person's off, that person's off, versus like, I feel like when and like the early 2010s and then the 2000s, like you'd have the top 10 all on, like they were all on at their best, and it was like, wow, like everyone looks amazing, and it was so competitive, and and then all those guys were on, and then Jay and Ronnie were just a light year ahead of all of them too, and it just made it so exciting because it was like you have Jay and Ronnie that were light years ahead of everybody, that were so on, that looked so crazy, fighting it out, and then from 3 to 5, we're all fighting it out, that looked so good, and then like it was exciting all across the board. Same thing even when like the Phil and Kai era, it was like Phil and Kai were light years ahead of everyone else, and there was Dennis, and then and all these other guys that were kind of fighting it out for these other spots, and it was exciting,
I think a telltale sign that the sport is doing well is if I tell you name the top 10 this year in order, you're probably going to be off because I mean it's almost impossible to read.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody's so close. But if I would have asked you this maybe four years ago, probably would have got the whole entire lineup right.
Yeah, because you know who's going to show up.
Exactly. So I think that's great, and I think with Hunter, Ian, Nick, I think those 3 are bringing a lot of excitement. I mean, you even got the Nathan. I mean, Nathan, you can't sleep on Nathan. Man. Nathan he's been up there for a while now, and I don't think Steve is going to be there, unfortunately. But this guy Rolly is getting better. Bonac is there. There's no guarantee Rami's going to win. There's no guarantee Brandon's going to be second. There's no guarantee of anything. Anybody.
It's exciting, It's cool to see like there could be a couple different dudes all fighting for that top spot, and like people that we've never even seen like stand next to each other yet. Which that's really exciting. Where you're like, wow, like I'm excited for the Arnold because of how many people are going to stand next to each other. Sergio's going, and Sergio's my boy. Like, love Sergio to death, and that dude is fucking dangerous.
Yeah.
Like, that dude will come up behind you, and you won't know what happened until he wins.
Yeah, because with somebody like Sergio, if you look at Nick, you see how dense he looks and muscular. Sergio, you don't realize
very
that
deceptive.
You don't realize, you know what I'm saying? Because he's a big frame guy. It's like the Kuklo thing, right? You might look at Kuklo like, okay, he's big. But when they stand next to me, we're like, oh, this motherfucker is actually big. So I'm interested to see how Nick looks next to Sergio. Because people think Nick is going to like probably be bigger than him. But realistically, not really.
Like, Sergio is huge. Like I've trained next to him for a long time. Like I watch him, I've seen him in the off season. I see him in prep. He's very deceptively big. And like the dude wears like 5XL shirts. Like he is enormous. Yeah. Like from clavicle width, from shoulder to shoulder, probably one of the widest dudes I've ever seen. Like, cause he's tall too. He's like damn near 6 foot.
That's what I'm saying.
And he's what?
I think a lot of people don't realize like the tallness and the width, it makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and Nick is obviously huge too, but he makes up for it more in how thick he is, versus like Sergio is a towering giant. Like you see him and you're like, wow, like that's a big dude.
How is that going to line up? I mean, seeing Kuklo next to Ian, honestly, Kuklo was a lot bigger than Ian. I mean, at least to me, he looked visually because he's a bigger guy, and then Sergio is closer to Kuklo's side. So So and who's gonna look bigger between Ian and Nick? That's interesting. It's all gonna be. Is Akeem gonna be there?
Yeah, he won. He won.
No, at the Arnold. I mean, is he gonna do the Arnold? I think he is doing Arnold.
He might be. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at the lineup in a little bit. I know it changed a couple times, but I think he'll probably do the Arnold. I wouldn't see why not.
I think so. And listen, I know Kuklo is gonna do it, and there's no guarantee that Bonac is gonna win, man. Like I like Bonac's for these two,
Yeah.
but there's no guarantee he's gonna win. Like
Yeah.
at this point, I don't think there's any favoritism to the champion. I don't think they care who the champion.
No.
I think they'll.
If they put Rolly in, what was it, fourth or fifth?
Yeah.
Then at the last show, then they don't care about your name anymore, which I like. I don't like people winning based off their name. I like people winning based off like, did they show up?
Who would you have as the top three at the Arnold? It doesn't have to be in order.
Nick, in no particular order. Nick will definitely be up there. Sergio will be up there, and probably Bonac.
Yeah,
that's where I think those three.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to have that same. But the order, honestly, it just depends who shows up. It's like we're both. You know how you can say at their best, but you can't say at their best with somebody like Sergio or Nick because we don't even know what the best is because they're improving so much.
Yeah.
Bonac.
That's the crazy thing is we haven't even seen the best of some of these guys. Sergio hasn't competed in over a year.
Exactly.
It's been a year. It's been a year and a half.
So
it's a lot of time for a guy like that to make progress.
Bonac is the only one we can say like we probably know his best, but
right
with Nick and Sergio, there's no telling how they can come.
They're still coming up, which makes it even more exciting. They're still coming up through the ranks, getting better and better.
Exactly, and then Sergio next to both of those guys, especially next to Bonac, he's so much taller and wider than him that it's gonna play to his advantage, man. It's gonna help him. That's gonna be nice to see. You have any upcoming shows in plan?
For myself?
Yeah,
I'm gonna do nationals in December.
Oh, dope. So I'm gonna see you there. Then I'm gonna hit most likely hit nationals as well. So we got 16 weeks.
Yes, 17 from today.
Okay, good. Yeah, because I know for you, this is probably the biggest you've been, right?
Yeah, I'm still sitting around like 235, and just I'm leaning out without really losing a ton of weight. So I feel pretty good.
That's a good look. I mean, for me, in the past, you know me, I would just stay fat and diet for like 6 weeks. But listen, if you try to rely on genetics, it'll get you to local level wins. Nationals, genetics go out the window, man. If you're straight, you gotta bring it. You look at the lineup.
Good, man. They'll outwork you.
Oh yeah, it won't matter. I mean, even looking at this past USA's you probably know Zaid. You know Zaid, right?
Yeah, no Zaid.
So Zaid, aesthetically, shape-wise, everything, boom, was there. The guys were just, I mean, the guy that beat him, they didn't have better physiques. They were just harder.
Yep.
And so it's like it's almost like it doesn't matter. Like you can have all the shape and this, you just got to be peeled. Like some of the winners, honestly, didn't have very pleasing physiques at all, but they were fucking peeled like crazy.
That's what wins a lot of I think the national level shows, because those guys aren't crazy developed yet, so they haven't really filled out their physiques, so they may not have the perfect shape yet, or they might have a lot of imbalances. So a lot of the time they do win based off of condition.
Yeah. So listen, genetics, you can win all the local shows in the world with genetics. I mean, with my shape, I could just walk home with those local shows, national shows. Ball game. So it's obviously
especially in bodybuilding.
Exactly. I just I actually stuck to the plan, man. I just stuck to the plan. I mean, it really comes down to that. I just ate what the fuck Compton told me to eat, and that was it. I stayed pretty lean.
You're working with Justin now?
Yeah. I mean, I've been working with Justin for a while now, but the way I am, I was just doing my own thing, and and then he was just like make the tweaks, but I was basically doing my own thing, man, and that's not.
Justin's a good dude. I like him. Very smart.
I like it, and what I like is that it's pretty simple. I can't do the complex stuff, man. It doesn't sit.
No, I don't like doing that either.
I don't want to mix the pineapple with this and that, and just give me chicken.
My only carbs right now are it's the rice products.
Yeah,
This is rice cakes, cream of rice, and white rice. That's all I eat for carbs.
that's
Just
all.
simple, easy to make.
Yeah, man. But yeah, good luck to you at nationals. And any shout outs or any sponsors, anything you got?
No, man, just me. I don't do the sponsor thing.
I'm gonna put your
Just shout out to my coach Blue.
Blue Tail. Okay, dope. I'm gonna put your email for coaching. What's the best way to reach you for coaching? Email?
So yeah, either email. It's my first last name. I spell it with an E, so Jasen
Okay.
Kohli, my last name, at Yahoo, or you can just go on my Instagram and DM me, which is my first and last name. That's it. Just Jasen Kohli.
Perfect. So I'm gonna throw that in the description box. I'll probably put it across the screen. Anybody want to reach Jasen, reach him and wish him good luck at the nationals. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah. Thanks for inviting me, buddy.
Of course, man. I'll probably have you on again. I might have you on as a regular if you're down for that. You know, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely, dude.
Perfect. All right, brother. Till next time, man.
Later, man.